This is a message of pronouncement and a public service announcement.
The story of Jesus almost suggests that there's some sort of earthbound parallel to the story that plays out in the stars. Or maybe I'm crazy.
It's because on another dimension, I forgot to mention attention. All religions, anything in between, were complete indecisions. G being the G.
The leading and only candidate for that is you and me, string theory. When the Nobel Prize was given to people like Heisenberg, he said, yes, give them the Nobel Prize. They're onto something. And by the way, if you ever find the God equation, tell me first. We'll split the Nobel Prize money together. He thought there had to be a higher theory, a theory even beyond the quantum theory. So Einstein was not totally incorrect.
Good news is, no one could ever have tried.
That's good because, you see, I was raised as a Buddhist, and in Buddhism, there's nirvana, timelessness.
I am the Buddha, Maitreya, Messiah, taking all of them higher.
People saw something that surpassed their technological intellect.
That's why you see the plasma swirling around me in the background in every video I've recorded of thee.
And maybe we'll find evidence of an umbilical cord. There was something before the Big Bang. And we're going to detect gravity waves from the instant of creation with gravity wave detectors in outer space one day. We should find baby pictures of the instant of the Big Bang. And maybe we'll find evidence connecting our baby universe to a parent universe.
So our universe is just one bubble in a lot of different, like a foam of bubbles.
That's right.
Okay? We're just one of those bubbles.
That's good because, you see, I was raised as a Buddhist.
They are all one people, connected by the world spirit in an infinitely expanding plane of human compassion. See the big hits. Feel 100 different hands on your body, imparting a blessing of forgiveness and gratitude. Brought to you by Quetzalcoatl, the official feathered serpent god.
The way physicists usually use the Schrödinger equation is to work out certain probabilities of what an observation on the system would tell you. The trouble is that it doesn't. That's to say, it measures it. And the process of measurement does not follow the Schrödinger equation.
Right.
It gives you a probabilistic answer, this or this or this.
So that's another outside the system problem.
Well, it's certainly outside the Schrödinger.
Right.
And Schrödinger was terribly worried about this. I mean, he produced his cat in a box and all sorts of things. You see, he clearly realized there was a problem, as did Einstein. There's no question about that. Some others didn't. Well, they took a different view. They said, look, we don't understand the theory well enough.
In history, you have certain people whose genius is just so incredible, and the visions that they have.
Tons of service. And it's no different for you and I, just having thoughts in the first place in place. Meanwhile, the curvature of space-time gravity has been keeping us from casually leaving the ground and going for a quick wander through a passing jet engine. Meanwhile, oxygen in our bodies, allowing us to exist in the first place. And all of this has been facilitated by the fundamental constants of nature, obeying the speed of light, gravitational constant, and all the rest. The buttons the universe has done her coat up with.
Now that I am, that's why this is called I Am. Because I am the creator.
If tomorrow you have a new idea about how the universe works,
Amun Ray,
it's going to enclose everything we've been talking about up to that moment that has been experimentally and observationally verified.
How about that? And it's 9:44, so what we're just talking about. I've already seen things about it and know things about it. However, with regard to Revelations 22:1, I never seen someone expound on the way to feel exactly why I'm coming at you this way. So
You realize that matter and energy are two sides of the same coin. Matter energy is one unit, and they can flip into each other under certain circumstances, like in the heart of a star.
If you find these images baffling, you're not alone. Designed to be completely alien to anyone who picks it up. The world of impossibilities within, at first, doesn't seem to follow any logic.
What is the God equation? Well, Einstein spent the last 30 years of his life chasing after the God equation. An equation perhaps no more than 1 inch long that would allow us to, quote, read the mind of God. A theory that would unite the two branches of physics. On one hand, we have the theory of the big, general relativity, black holes, big bangs, and the theory of the small, quantum theory, atomic physics. How can you unite these two into one theory? At the present time, these two theories hate each other. They're based on different mathematics, different principles, different concepts, and yet we believe in our heart of hearts there has to be a master theory out there, the holy grail of physics. And that we think is the God equation.
So for this entry into the archive, I'm going to do my best to document the alternate dimension created. Hypothetical question for you. Have you ever seen a group of trees going for a swim?
Light ends where life begins. Light ends where life begins. Doomed in courtship, the land of false prophets and idol worshippers turn from sin and begin submission to their creator. God's power and prophecy are on full display. Beyond cower every hour. Mankind takes time to rewind, since disobedience and stubbornness are blasphemous, which compromises cooperation, healing hearts, removing revival, and watering worlds with God's pearls, light, showing all souls of gold eternal life, without strife, having to worry about seekers of the night. Stages for changes, Revelation 23:1. A single twin from within is Neptune. A flame burneth bright to balance sight, as night burns in light every night. Cold souls on hold, being sold into darkness of coal, without being told. Nothing in the night can dim thy light. Nothing in the night shall hold thy light. Nothing in the night shall take thy light. As I wash your feet, go pave the street. Do you know that? This is what I'm doing right now. As I wash your feet, with this vibration, you can eat. As I wash your feet, go pave the street. Nothing in the night shall dim thy light. Take this time, your rhymes, to remember this time mirrored like mine.
Our universe had a genesis. Our universe had a big bang. There was an explosion, but these explosions take place all the time. Universes keep budding off other universes. Now, what is the universe expanding into? Expanding into another bigger arena, the arena of 11-dimensional hyperspace. Therefore, our bubble is expanding in nirvana. At the present time, these two theories hate each other. They're based on different mathematics, different principles, different concepts, and yet we believe in our heart of hearts there has to be a master theory out there, the holy grail of physics. And that we think is the God equation. The leading and only candidate for that is string theory. He didn't have the mathematics to calculate a falling moon. So what did he do? He invented his own mathematics. And the theory was one of the greatest theories of all time, Newton's law of gravity. How's that possible? Well, Einstein would say that you cannot add velocities in relativity. He asked the question for the ages. If an apple falls, does the moon also fall? And he realized that he didn't have the mathematics to calculate a falling moon. So what did he do? He invented his own mathematics.
Which is why I'm showing you my soul up next, so that you can see the turtle shell and how Vedic and a lot of mythologies mentioned the turtle as the world's base and place.
Oh, so, okay, the wave function just collapses and it's there, right?
It doesn't travel there. It was always there, probabilistically, okay? So
because you just couldn't see and realize the atomic nature of my face, the atomic nature of my face, the atomic nature of my face.
Yes, the astronomical units, AU, correspond between the Susananta and the modern calculations with all the planets in the solar system.
Let's take a look at the facts right from the start.
The beer mug would be the hyperspace. The bubbles in a beer mug are all physically about the same. But suppose they span a range of properties. Some of them might have carbon and oxygen and stars and gravity, and others don't.
We couldn't be living and discussing this in a universe that was hostile to life. Only the bio-friendly ones get populated with thinking beings.
Having a multitude of universes is actually quite a simple and natural consequence of some of the most favored models for the birth and early evolution of our universe. It's kind of like stars and planets.
But some theologians say the idea of an infinite number of universes isn't any more likely than an unseen creator ensuring our universe is habitable for life.
A multiverse requires as much belief as belief in a transcendent God.
From your point of view, it would take perhaps a few minutes, let's say, to fall through a black hole, depending upon where you started from. Your watch says that you went right through to the center of the black hole. But from outside, somebody with a telescope looking at you from outer space would see you frozen in time, slowly going into the black hole, because time beats at a different rate from the outside and the inside. Get your head around this. Time can beat at different rates at different points in the universe. Like, how are black holes and infinite density even possible? Like, how does something get so dense that it collapses on itself? I want to know. We know that if I take a gigantic star or galaxy and compress it, its gravity is so great that nothing known to science can escape the clutches of gravity. So light itself is trapped by the black hole, and according to textbooks, it collapses to a point of infinite density.
It was all the same Lego bricks, all part of the same game, the same cosmic terms of service. He had this overwhelming sense of unity. And all of this has been facilitated by the fundamental constants of nature, obeying the speed of light, gravitational constant, and all the rest. The buttons the universe has done her coat up with.
Light can bend around corners. In fact, that's why we have glass inside your glasses. When light goes into glass, it slows down slightly. Because it slows down, it deviates from a straight line. And that's why we have your glasses, telescopes, microscopes, because glass bends light. Also, gravity can bend light. You can actually see the bending of light as it goes around a galaxy. Then the next question is, can you bend light completely around an object so the object becomes invisible? And the answer is yes. It's well within the laws of physics that if you could govern the atomic structure of glass, then light would bend in a way such that it would completely go around an object, so anything inside that object becomes invisible. Time does not beat uniformly throughout the universe. You realize that the black hole is spinning, and spinning stars collapse to a ring. They don't collapse to a dot at all. And if you fall through the ring, the mathematics says that you fall not just to the ring, but you fall to the other side to a parallel universe. That is, on the other side of a black hole, there's a white hole. Everything that falls in gets blown out the other end.
What is the most counterintuitive thing about the nature of the universe that is true despite seeming false at first glance?
Are you ready?
Morning sunshine, welcome to reality. I tried to wake you, but you were sleeping so peacefully in your fallacy. Quite casually, I got 7 uncolonized names to explain my gallantry. I'm a galaxy.
Let's go way back on this one.
You need to know.
You can call me your majesty.
Catch up.
That Earth is moving through space at 18 miles per second. And you have no knowledge of this. We have to measure this. We have to figure this out with telescopes, with smart people, with data, with calculations. We associate motion with, hey, I can feel I'm in motion, I can feel that. But the more pure motion becomes, the less you feel it. That's why on very large vessels, if they start moving, you don't even know they started moving, because everything around you is moving. Your chair, your window, everything. If you're on a bus, sometimes it looks like the other bus went backwards. No, you started going forward. So basically, the larger the vessel, the less aware you are of how much that vessel is moving. And oh my gosh, we left.
Because you're surrounded by so many things that are also moving.
And everything is moving smoothly. If you're on bumpy roads, you would know.
Right, so if I'm on that boat and it starts...
But movement through space is smooth. Can't get smoother than that.
And so the relevance of that in relation to this question is you're saying that the Earth...
It's not intuitive that Earth is moving anywhere, and this is why we went thousands of years with people thinking Earth was stationary in the center of the known universe.
What is making it move?
It's not what's making it move. It's that if it moved much slower, it would fall into the sun and we would all die. And if it moved much faster, we would escape from the solar system and we'd be a vagabond planet in interstellar space. So the only planets that survive the formation of the solar system.
So come along and stay strong, because I won't steer you wrong.
Now, with these two examples, that means his present is unfolding years ahead of you. Anything you do now on Earth is already in his past. Put simply, the past, present, and future all exist at once. Now, before you have an existential crisis, there's a theory that might make living in the past, present, and future all at once a little easier. It's called moving spotlight theory, and it basically argues that there is only one absolute present, which changes moment by moment as if a spotlight is moving over it. So with that information, you can begin to see how the passage of time might be an illusion. There's no single objective past, objective present, or objective future. The illusion of time is crafted by our memories. But depending on where you are or how fast you're moving, that sequence will be very, very different. So whether you're new age or nostalgic, or if you just prefer the present moment, don't worry, there's a place for you somewhere in the universe. It might take you hundreds of years to get there, but if you move fast enough, you'll get there in no time.
If you are a bystander looking at the bus and the fly from outside, you would say, yes, the velocity of the fly is the velocity of the bus plus the velocity of the fly inside the bus. Velocities can add. Now, of course, if you're inside the bus, if the bus is really a rocket ship traveling near the speed of light,
which is exactly why synchronicity is king. I made it that way. That way I could always remember what I say. That's a vibration in a frequency. Primordial order in the water. That way you know the first order.
we live in 4 dimensions, but can see 3. How many dimensions are there? Einstein says we live in a 4-dimensional world. We can go forward, backward, left, right, up, down, and the 4th dimension is time. But now we're beyond Einstein, and we have to go beyond 4 dimensions to perhaps, let's say, 10, 11 dimensions. But where are these other dimensions? We think they have curled up. They're so small that you cannot enter them, but perhaps we can feel their effects. And where is this other dimension? It is off the plane of your universe. Perhaps a parallel universe hovering right above your universe in another dimension that we cannot see or touch. What is dark matter? Can it be touched? Is it dangerous? Most of the universe is made out of dark matter. Dark matter surrounds the Milky Way galaxy. If it wasn't for dark matter, the Milky Way galaxy would have spun out of control and the Earth would be flung into outer space. Can it be touched? Well, no, because it would filter right through your fingertips, right through the atoms of your body. Is it dangerous? No, because it doesn't interact with us.
Let the sacred...
You see that jumping? That's the wood. That's the board.
And then here's the big question.
That it was always on one accord. Do you see?
Is it? There's a Nobel Prize out there waiting for that person who can figure out what dark matter is.
God damn. I got that on video. Hell yeah.
So we have this bubble bath of universes.
Right.
So there was something before Genesis, chapter 1, verse 1. That means that the two velocities have to be adjusted because of the fact that time inside the rocket has slowed down. Now this is amazing. It works. And this has been measured repeatedly. First of all, most textbooks say that an electron is a dot. Particles that we see in our atom smashers are dots. But if I had a super microscope, I can see that that dot is actually a rubber band. From a distance, this rubber band looks like a dot. Close up, you see that it's a vibrating string. Now, this rubber band can vibrate in many different modes. Each mode can be called a particle. So for example, this might be an electron. But if you twirl it in a different way, it becomes a quark. And if you twirl it this way, you have to give it a different name. We call it a neutrino. Now, how many ways can one string vibrate? The answer is obvious. an infinite number of vibrations on the same string. They're nothing but musical notes on a tiny rubber band. A rubber band so small that it looks like a dot. Physics is the harmonies of vibrating strings. Physics tells us how these vibrations move. What is chemistry? Chemistry is when these strings bump into each other and form molecules. Was Einstein wrong about his theory of relativity? Yes and no. There's a famous quote where Einstein said, "The more successful the quantum theory gets, the sillier it looks." So I've had these two conflicting ideas in my head. There was something before the Big Bang, and we're going to detect gravity waves from the instant of creation with gravity wave detectors in outer space one day. We should find evidence because Einstein's theory of gravity breaks down at the instant of the Big Bang. That's why he spent 30 years of his life chasing after a higher theory. And what does string theory say? Well, Einstein says the universe is a bubble. We live on the skin of the bubble, and the bubble's expanding. That's called the Big Bang theory. String theory says there are other bubbles out there. There's a bubble bath of universes, and universes are being formed all the time. Big bangs are happening even as we speak.
That's why I've been making these videos and not worrying about having to rush and get them to anybody. Because the time will arrive at me. That's how it's always going to be with all the synchronicities. Do you think it's a coincidence? No. And then got to go through all these damn tests. But I'm the best.
That's what we should be talking about.
Do you think I went shopping or hopping for all the things that you see that match up? Not just with my divinity, but with history. Not even realizing that ever since childhood, I had these items, or was given to me. And then I realized myself the synchronicity, all the sevens and the nines and all the divine. I realized that it couldn't have been just in the nick of time, that some planning had been around. When you see this video, and you realize who I be, make sure you take the synchronicity, because it's complacent of you not to make sure that everyone knows who, unless you're enjoying the state of affairs without having more stairs. Those are there to climb, and I will help you find.
So without further ado, we present Schrodinger's cat. I'm sure you've heard some version of this famous thought experiment. You put a cat in a bunker with some unstable gunpowder that has a 50% chance of blowing up in the next minute and a 50% chance of doing nothing. The gunpowder is Einstein's version. Schrodinger preferred poisonous gas. But whatever. So until we look in the bunker, we don't know whether the cat is dead or alive. And when we do look, it is either dead or alive. So if we repeat the experiment enough times with enough cats and bunkers and gunpowder, we'll see that half the time, Kitty survives, and half the time, Kitty goes bye-bye. The quantum mechanical interpretation is that before we look, the cat is in a superposition. It's both dead and alive. And our act of looking forces nature's decision. So our curiosity kills the cat. But what about the cat's perspective? Well, the cat either sees the gunpowder explode or not. So inside the bunker, we actually have these two possibilities. The powder explodes and the cat sees it explode, or the powder doesn't explode and the cat doesn't see it explode. There's no option, the powder explodes and the cat doesn't see it explode. So the cat's reality becomes entangled with the outcome of the experiment. And it's our observation of the experiment that forces nature to collapse to one option or the other. But we're like the cat too. Either the cat dies and we see it dead, or the cat lives and we see it alive. So who's observing us to force nature to collapse to one reality? Or do both possibilities happen in parallel within a larger multiverse? This collapsing to one reality problem is one of the biggest unanswered questions in quantum physics.
And then that would then trigger a gate that would open the box. You know, it's a little more Rube Goldbergian than what I'm describing. But just to be clear, if you don't look in the box, you do not know if the cat is alive or dead. And so the Schrodinger's cat is, you're talking about something that you don't know about
until you actually investigate it. And
It's
then
the
you'll know
end of
about
the
it.
movie Seven.
I didn't see that. Here's what happens. You say to yourself, you put a cat in a box, and if the cat is a quantum cat with two states of existence, it's either dead or alive. While it's in the box, you have no idea which it is. And so the way we describe this in quantum physics, if you do the experiments, okay, so some percentage of the time you open the box, the cat will be alive. Others, the cat will be dead. And so what we say is that the cat's existence is a superposition of being dead and being alive.
I got you.
It's a superposition of those two states.
Because it's in the box.
It's in the box and you're not looking at it.
And you're not looking at it, and that's why the superposition exists.
Correct. And it's a quantum cat.
This has to do with when gravity is brought into the picture. And there's reasons for believing this. I don't want to go into that. But there is reason
I'd like you to go into it if you would be willing to. Because I'm very...
Send it through another magnet that is going vertically. And now it's 50-50 again. It could be spin up or spin down. So somehow, even though we knew exactly what state it was in, we couldn't predict what would happen next. Because Many Worlds is much better, but this is the standard textbook version. So when you're in pursuit of an understanding, a deeper understanding...
You would have to have me, the creator of thee, resurrected for you to see. Just like I'm showing you now. Now you see? The combinations and quantum mechanics, algorithms with precision, shape-shifting in my divisions, in my bubble, doing the huddle from the beginning. That's how you'll be winning. So listen here, get clear. In that way, you can remember that there is a divine being creating things everywhere. To give it to you like I'm giving it to you now, I am blackwashing it down. That's why you see me in this gown. So that you can know what today is about. Blackwashing. Making sure that a definition gets depth, that way it has heft. All the things that I left, making it light, bright, and don't even see the things that I have to show you after changing the tones, because your eyes don't see those colors of light. Do you see my height? Only the Book of Euclid and my other codices, Seraphinianus, and my Sphinx Jix, and all of these. And don't forget that's still my window. And it's not actually my window, it's a crescendo from my bubble, the bubble that you've always seen around me, the green line bubble around everything in my divinity, the divine bubble, the womb, mother's womb, matriarch, the matrix connected me to all things that are not fake.
It's time to turn on the lights. It's time to turn on the lights.
They say don't look up. I say don't duck and two fingers up. A mystery in the Last Supper is held in my upper. The mystery of the Last Supper. They say don't look up. I say don't duck and two fingers up. The shape of the dinosaur head from which I led is not just the dinosaur head, it's really a bird flying the ship being the turtle shell, the ship that you thought Da Vinci didn't make. But really, it was another thing that was finished late. And I'm trying not to do that thing, just like then, which is how all these things unfinished, and then you don't win. So, it's time to transcend and mend, and that's why this is the most important thing in history, because I am uncovering all the mysteries, pairing up casually pages and codices that are mysteries. People paid millions of dollars to see these. And me, all I had to do was let synchronicity lead, just like it led me to you.
This means that overall, the nucleus is positively charged. Now the electrons are moving at incredible speed, in fact 3/4 of the speed of light.
Again, there's nothing that I say that I cannot prove. So I welcome doubt, because I can cancel it quickly with authentic video and thought, because that's what I'm about. Now, take your doubt and go to every video on the channel so that you can see not just the seraphim flowing around my home or the cherubim floating out of my soul space on its own, to let you know that second coming is now, and I will continue to show you how.
And magnetism is perpendicular to electricity in its flow. And then we've just found out all about God, the fact that descriptions of him include crystallized structures that surround God. He's covered in clouds, nobody can see him. Energy covered by dust. Plasma technology shows that God is energy. So please turn around in your thinking. Ain't no gravity fusion universe, it's a plasma universe of electricity and matter, and God is energy. Energy forms plasma from matter, electricity and electromagnetism causing crystalline structures.
There's a post I made a while back about the crystallization of souls and the remote activation of souls. Now, when my body told me that, I didn't know that it'd be possible. I've been manifesting it to be able to happen so that you can catch up. That was literally like my phone was dying that night, and I caught it because we all were too far behind. The simulacra. They've always wanted to know, is this a system? Is this an algorithm? Are we in a simulation? Yes, it is part of a projection, and all the videos need to see how I left them. Follow the synchronicity. They'll explain those things, because I'm sure you're going to be wondering and thinking, how could this be? But once you see, you will know who I be.
Known by several names.
When you know more of you from before than you remember of this incarnation, it's like asking someone to give up thousands of years of their memories for 30. Why would I do that? Why would I do that?
Light is defined as a form of electromagnetic radiation that's within the portion of electromagnetic spectrum that we can see with our physical eyes. In other words, light is electromagnetic radiation that has a wavelength of about 400 to 700 nanometers. So basically anything in between infrared and ultraviolet on the electromagnetic spectrum. In physics though, the word light can also sometimes mean EM radiation of any wavelength, not just the visible ones, in case you thought we had it easy.
Ancient Egyptian art wasn't produced for art's sake, but all had a functional or political purpose, such as tomb paintings, which were painted showing scenes of the deceased's life, so the spirit would remember it in the afterlife.
And then I learned again.
God is physically doing it. And there's no question about this, what it's meant in this image. God is the architect of the world. God is physically creating the world.
This is how I found out who I am, was, and will continue to be, because it's the second coming, okay?
At the time, it seemed absurd.
But we'll let and see. I'll show you. And can do it better do. AI, the 44, the door. Jesus appears to the disciples for 40 days. The prophet Ezekiel lies on his side for 40 days, symbolically bearing Judah's sins. It rains for 40 days and 40 nights during Noah's flood, because we know that water is life. Water is life like it's light, because you wouldn't have life if you didn't have light, and that light came from the water, and that's real life, okay? 40 silver bases support the north, and 40 silver bases support the south sides, like the tabernacle, okay? Like the tabernacle.
Masau amami bang pau, itit ko happy makiwa. Sinom happy itit squad our past not yao yung ni.
A moment came that he needed the sun to stop, and the sun stopped.
I told you to look for the purple light and the golden white light, that way you can get right, okay? And that's the third eye, that's your crown chakra. You've heard of the third eye, but the only way to have awareness of it is for me to give it to you in this kind of way. And isn't this crazy, child?
Go ahead.
Oh my God! So.
Tu wanna sabi, yep, umung mas kaya yuta.
Without memories, we're just a shell.
You don't do a return like this with this type of chaos that is necessary. Imagine how much more chaos is about to ensue. So we have lots of conversations coming, which will detail that ultra bright light that is sitting in my body and when it was given to me. So watch that when I post it, and you'll have better understanding as to what that experience felt like. Now, this is not something that you can be taught, that you can learn. This is something that you must earn over the course of your lifetimes. I'm still filling in all the details of my former selves. And I'm here to tell you that that's because DNA modulation and DNA frequency matching, pairing, and hunting is something that has always been around. It must be understood that I am in a divine situation as a result of all the accomplishments in my past lifetimes. And when I mean accomplishments, it's not the kind you're thinking either. It's accomplishments through pain. You must have experienced the amount of pain that my body has been able to contain to be able to earn your place in doing something like what we're doing right now. I'll tell you, I know the plan and I know what I'm here to do, and thankfully I have the tools to do it.
In the Hopi legend, it is said that the Star Children will prepare humankind for the arrival of what they call the Blue Star and the Kachina, or Star Being, who will arrive with it.
That's history fixed. All of that in that mix. So now I'm going to show you this.
Here the Buddha is shown with a different mudra, his hand reaching down just about to touch the earth. That simple gesture is a symbol that would encompass for a Buddhist a longer and more complex story of the Buddha achieving enlightenment.
The Buddha is often shown holding his hands in different positions, what are called mudras, and we're seeing a particular one here.
The right hand is held up.
It's a sign of protection and blessing, and the other hand is held downwards. We notice that the hands have this sinuous feel to them, and there's a reason for that.
The joints have vanished. They are expressions of imperfection, and this is a perfect being.
And we get an even better sense of this perfect being by looking at the head.
Don't want to disappear on your ass. That's why there was always a mask. Synchronicity is king. I made it that way. That way I could always remember what I say. That's a vibration and a frequency. Primordial order in the water. That way you know the first order. Fresh algae, schlepped. Fresh from Algean shores to my primordial core. Like the emerald ore used in my mask. A before. Palenque to the core. Always offering more.
There are some oddities that have been captured on camera that some people believe are glitches in the Matrix. We do have this curious clip of a bird who is perched in midair without moving before flying away.
The point is awareness, so let's start there. Awareness so that you can be properly fed, even when you're dead. And the question is, why don't you have awareness of it? Or why aren't you paying attention to it? Or why don't you care? So, we're going to start like this. That way you don't miss. Now, some of the things that you're going to see were shocking to me too at first. Even thought it was a curse. But what I've come to know is that this was scheduled in this time, just like many other things in the timeline.
Now, what's especially curious about this is that we find a link to the mysteries of dark matter and energy in a place that you might not expect.
I'm coming back on this phone just to show you a pine cone. You've seen other images of me. The E-A-A-I, me.
I know what you think. Enki in Samaria was Ea in Babylon, and he was also considered a fish being who lived in a watery vault, an underwater palace like many of these beings. So the story goes back and interfaces with Christianity.
Me, Enki, holding a pine cone, creating. Do you see? The synchronicity, which is why I showed you all of these. So that everyone can see exactly what you're looking at. a pine cone simply sitting. But when you look close, you realize it's heat and steam. Love, I mean love protecting the dove. That's why the pine cone sits there, glaring with my matriarch of the matriarch's line, showing you lion's pride just in time.
The pine cone also represents the third eye, the pineal gland, and human enlightenment.
The crown chakra. Okay? I said I'd be activating your crown chakra, and I said to look for the purple light. Okay? I told you to look for the purple light and the golden white light, that way you can get right. Okay?
The great truth we must understand is that we are the ones who actively perpetuate its existence.
It is not wise that all the people should know the histories.
And so here we have a beautiful melding of Buddhism with
string theory like he does.
My paradise is where my eyes are. My eyes are the things that are unseen because they've been hidden behind a cloudy screen. Little did I know, until 33, the past 4 years would speed past me. Now 37, I am L, yeah, like the 313. It's been about 3 years and 13 days, actually, now that I count the ways, because we're going on 4. When those days arrive at 14 half times the sevens, the 7 on 7 from which I arrive from heaven. 7:43 in the morning, lorning with my mother Isa bin Medium, letting you know that she drove my cherubim that you're about to see roll out whole, understanding the mold.
Finding lessons in letters, understanding the things that I've gathered since before your weather, gathered before G.
The mysteries of the Rahonk Codex have stumped experts. Researchers have questioned how the text, though of a Western origin, is a characteristic of the East, and most importantly, the reversement of written depictions of the Tetragrammaton, the Hebrew name for God.
Now, listen to everything else I've made for you during this time. Now you can see why the F's and the E's are shaped the way they are, like the 3's, and my trinities. So hopefully this will help you learn how to respond to these.
The notion that otherworldly beings came to Earth from the heavens is one of the most common themes in ancient mythology and religion.
When you look at me here, you should know that there is no myth there. Teamwork, but I needed to catch it. And the thing is that the way things work in the universe is that you're allowed to see things when it's time. And in your case, that's why I'm letting you see it, because it's time. So I'm just thankful that I was able to catch myself. Oh, no. I will not be forgetting any of this.
This brings us to what many perceive as one of the strangest beings described in the Bible. The whirling wheels, also known as the Ophanim. Now, where do I start with these? The Ophanim are described as wheels within wheels.
Pause. And just so we're clear, there are no filters being used here. I'm not that high tech. I'm just getting caught up on that because this is quite Android. That's why I'm showing you everything that you would have missed because of the void. See here, there is no filter there. And let me show you the original file so that it won't give you a scare. The original file already marked under Revelations 5:5 because that's Revelations 5:5 having it my 4:4 door at the Mora door at the corridor. And that's why you see this and the time. What time was that? May 13th, 222, 257, 7 on 7. Reminding you of another divine algorithm coming from heaven. And just like the megabytes, 40.343, just like how you saw it start at 5.5, the 505 at the time, and then merging into Revelations 5.5, give me the Line of Judah during the actual moment. That way you understand, I'm not even just going to phone it in. That way you understand how to win. Now you see the mirroring there, and that there is no filter there. So that's how I know how to identify myself, because of the transubstantiation.
and everything that came from my resurrection. And I have such elation because since creation, you can see that is the tetragrammaton formed across me. The tetragrammaton, the only name to identify me, and that had been forbidden for others to say or see. That's why you see J-E-G-Y, Jah, like Yah, Yahweh, not that way. That's not how you say. It's just El, Elon, Elion, Eliath, so that you understand. Before I break it down all a matter of fact and prepare you for the things you're about to see, and most people have been waiting to see, that was designed from an algorithm to remind my mind of transubstantiation, which is exactly the illumination behind the images like my Salvador Mundi.
I call the lost principle. This is the 8th principle of natural law, which binds all of the other principles together. It is what I would call the encapsulating principle. Okay? It's the container.
Because I'm in a bubble.
An important detail found in some of the depictions at Dendera and elsewhere is that the pharaoh is shown within a circle or bubble.
In another remarkable example, we see a pharaoh sitting on a throne that someone has discovered. We see a pharaoh sitting on a throne. This is a craft that was created by Ptah, the ancient Egyptian god of technology, who the Egyptians connected with the star Sirius.
Now, if I just told you and showed you that I'm the dog star, as I zoomed into my soul and showed you my whole car. So Sirius, the dog star, God, the dog, the D-O-G, the dog, the God star. You understand the reverse of that? That's what that is, because you're looking at the star talking to you as I drive this car. And that's where you are. In the dog star system, the Sirius system. Which were exactly the things that reminded me of me. Thanks to Diane and her hard work, and many of you who I don't know by name, but I appreciate you just the same, because all of your efforts help my light remind my sight and my height, meaning my soul inside my body. That's why I'm able to give this to you in such delight.
In ancient Egypt, we learn of pharaohs, gods who traveled the stars riding these craft.
Who knew? It was all men in black, just like that. But really, it's Jesus driving the light, because I'm the sun, Atum, Amun.
The so-called magic bubble imagery is found in artwork throughout the ancient world. And some researchers speculate that the repeated connection between the bubble shape and ascension.
In those times, the R means throw it in reverse. So we're talking about ley lines. The first name is referring to ley lines, just like the numbers you see down to the size of mines. The shape of the dinosaur head, from which I led, is not just the dinosaur head, it's really a bird flying the ship being the turtle shell, the ship that you thought Da Vinci didn't make. But really, it was another thing that was finished late.
And in Star Trek, they, compressed the space in front of them and expanded the space behind them and would rocket faster than the speed of light. And then he said, well, wait a minute. I think I could duplicate that.
The warp drive vehicle,
A Mystery in the Last Supper, is held in my upper.
is surrounded by an energy bubble within space-time.
You need energy to create a bubble, what's called a warp bubble surrounding your starship. Then you need what is called negative energy to drive it faster than the speed of light, while inside you feel almost nothing.
Do you think it's a coincidence? No. I then got to go through all these damn tests, but I'm the best.
That's what we should be talking about.
Whose genius is just so incredible, and the visions that they have.
And all humanity worships this human alongside God.
A human where I expect to see God.
Yeah, this human is a part of God's identity.
Do you know how interesting it is to look to camera? And I've been doing this for so long by myself. So at this point, it's just me and this little dot right there.
Inside which all the other principles fit very nicely and neatly.
To remember this time mirrored like mine. How I got my memory.
And retrieves meaning in the living pattern called a hologram.
Prized with, and why? Do you think the letters are that way
because the typewriter had messed up in the sway? No. As you see, all of the colors and the numbers started shaping and shifting. And the frequency of the 4s and the 9s and the 7s and the T's that look like the cross that you see is the reason why the L and the L and the Egyptian over the head and the throne from which I led, all the things and bled. That's why they're in the wall shape-shifting, because it's not just the wall. The bubble is the full planetary space projecting from my place, from my inside, 1984, from the core. That's why that book was written, to remind all those that there would be more. And the root, the Cherokee shaman, that's why I'm the Brahmin, the shaman, the 7 on 7, and why you see them shape-shifting near me. Because the 7s are part of the algorithm that you all can't see.
So, you produce a neo-human, okay, with a new individuality, a new consciousness.
God's sign, seal, or mark.
What you see is the number 7. The most divine number, the number 7. This is how I put myself back together. When I saw my reflection on the computer screen, and first of all, my hair was in a head wrap. That was actually the same moment that my cherubim flew out. When I was recording myself, when I picked up the camera and faced it towards myself after catching the cherubim, I ended up seeing this, looking back at me, moving with me, which blew my mind. So after all the other things took time, I rewound and found this. Do you see the synchronicity in this? Look at the ridges on the flip. And look at this one, ridges go down with a dip. So I'm sitting at a machine projecting. So when I said we're projecting toward you healing, I literally am projecting. My soul is able to project, okay? This is what you're looking at, okay? I am no graphic designer, but I was able to paste in when you're on some crazy, try to piece your shit together, piece your life together stuff before trying to get back to a sense of normalcy. This is the only way I was able to try to help others see. And thankfully, it already exists in the world for me to be able to match myself with myself. So, do you see? Those were the cues for my mind to rewind. And then I was able to remember the full design.
Finally, someone has come across the one piece of evidence we need.
What is this called? iMovie? iMovie. Something basic. That way you can see how I laced it, full of colors and light so that you can see the heights. Everyone has always wanted to know whether or not we were living in a system or an algorithm. And if you know anything about astrophysics and white light, you'll know that behind me, you can't even see what's going on in full sight. So I'm gonna adjust the light. That's why when I said Magi, look at the image, the Magi and I. Magi. What do you see? Pause. This is why I love the truth from the root as I give it to you, the truth. That's why you see when I say Magi, so the Magi, number 4 letters, Magi. What is that in reverse? I am. It's a vibration that I understand. Chandas, like the 22 chandas. Really 24, but 22, like the 4, like John, Mark, those twin names within. A royal blue soul.
According to Jewish tradition, the Hilazon is a harbinger of messianic times, the end of the world. But it wasn't just tied to the next world. It also had an earthly value. It has legs at its head. It has to have certain parts of its body should be resembling of a snake.
Kind of like a dragon or something, you know, with some holy lizard or whatever.
You see that? See the light go from behind me?
Except when it has its mouth and its eyes and everything, it has legs. Like, you know, imagine a person would have legs up here and wants to catch up. Why is it connected with the end of the world? And which animal is the Hilazon?
They could be right in front of you. And unless you kind of know what shape you're looking for and maybe even know what movements you're looking for, it's very difficult to find them. It's very difficult to catch them.
The soul that you see sitting in this body, feeling so free, is that the same of Lord Buddha, thought, Muhammad, and Jesus Christ? I know. It's a lot to take in.
That will be public and seen by all. There'll be no question that you are witnessing the return of Jesus.
Now, remember this name. Jaya-ah. Jaya-ah. Ha, as in ha. Ha, the dog star. Ja. J-A-G. J-A-H. Flip it around, don't you see? You are looking at the Messiah. Ja. Ji. Ya. Ah. Ha. Ahas. Oh, did you see the seraphim? The seraphim.
Moses made a bronze serpent, which may have been a representation of a seraph angel.
God's angels floating around my throne at home. You see that yet? Okay, that should be enough proof. But most importantly, if somebody don't help me get this to the public, because nothing else can happen, no changes can happen until this happens. So keep that in mind when you view anything that's mine. The longer it takes for me to do what I have to do the things that'll change things for all of you, generationally, in every station of we. In order for that to happen, I have to go public. I've been obviously stalling for quite a while, and would keep doing it if I didn't feel guilt while watching all the bullshit go on. And I ain't having it, okay? I ain't having it, okay? Not my soul's running around, Y'all know, do y'all have any idea all the work that was put into making sure that y'all had souls in the first place? No, you don't. So, but we can talk about that. We can talk all about that.
This is a young man who's pretty much left on his own in some ways for up to 19 years.
He strives for knowledge. He strives for information. He is able to create a body of knowledge which is on par with the body of information which the Platonic Academy as a group of beings is able to put out.
It was also in the North Apennine Mountains that Leonardo is believed to have discovered the cave that he wrote about in his journal.
The twin miracle is said to be performed by the Buddha. His power, you'll see, as all the blue flames swirl around me, you'll know the Buddha is not a test. He manifested fire and water concurrently. The lower part of his body emitted fire and the upper part of his body emitted water. Or else the upper part of his body emitted fire and the lower part emitted water. This is my last birth. Buddha taught that there would be a future Messiah, Lord of mercies, who would be able to free men in their sins.
You like it what you see? Everything designer, that's on me.
There will be no great revelation after this one. Behold, he cometh with clouds, swirling before my face, swirling before my face. As this swirl continues to spiral, and becoming a thunderstorm across your screen, now clearing the way for my conversation.
It appears that that's the moment at which this is written in the Codex.
God damn. I got that on video.
And when you're doing rituals like this, you must know what you're doing. So, friends of mine, my question is, how do I know? I, just like L, the beginning and the end.
I'm so sorry, like I can't live with this any longer. And it was beautiful.
But I think
I learned my lesson.
That's a great lesson there.
No, stop.
Along with destroying or falsifying the past, widespread mental disorientation is further cultivated by destroying the belief in objective truth.
You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise.
On the outside looking in, I'm a brother in Brooklyn, in Brownsville, no doubt, who others might just think doesn't leave the house except for to walk the two dogs. But the reality is that the actual reality. From the outside, it's incorrect. From the inside looking out is what it's about. And I'm about to show you without having to jingle any clout.
They will never revolt, never think, never create. They have been transformed into dead objects. This is done through a program of psychological warfare, incessant and intentionally confusing propaganda, conflicting reports, and blatant lies.
Don't let it happen.
So that healing can happen for those in the world who don't have the understanding, and the missing link is right in front of you.
You only see what you want to see.
Here's a synchronistic example to confirm this message. You know who I am. You can see it. There's nothing I can do to not be it.
Because I know better.
Jesus has esoteric knowledge that the teacher lacks. The teacher simply tries to teach him the alphabet, but Jesus implies he knows a deeper meaning that the letters have. Again.
Exactly.
Unless you're actively searching for new information, to find something different, or follow someone who is creating content that is going down rabbit holes and sharing what they find, what you get is generally what you're already accustomed to seeing.
You need to understand this is part of a system, an algorithm, and a rhythm. And it's not just tradition. The reason why there's a code to the Torah has a code. The reason why there's a code is because it's down to the node. Ariel, when you read that, to you, you see a name and a man that existed. For me, I know it's an algorithm and a number and a name to reconnect what existed. Just like when you see here, all of the light changing in your height. That way you can see all the sights. In my bubble doing a huddle. Make sure all of you are thorough as you scroll through all the things that you've never seen, wanted to see. I bladed out crystal clean to go in reverse to remember my core. Always showing you more. I am the 13. Providence, that I, showing you how high. Kalki Madi, Maitreya, for you to see. What? You're wondering who would have the audacity to make such a claim, huh? Someone telling the truth. And someone who definitely did not want to announce this and was gonna just try to quietly keep it inside while I notate everything on my ride and posting it online for whenever you all find. But after I see more that I continue to see, it's made me want to speed up the process. How I had saved an image that I didn't even know was living. Didn't even know it was living until I see. And in the healing and why it's so important in planting roots is because my reminder to you is that there is no worry. Here you go.
This economic boycott, or there's this death decree. The devil doesn't care which way he gets you. God never appeals to us through force or coercion, but he only appeals to us through truth and love.
Truth over everything. Truth over everything. Now I know where that came from, and that's a whole daggone fool. Now let me show you confirmation, what that looks like. Do you see that? Okay, that's called confirmation. That's your confirmation. That's your synchronicity, just like mine. Let's get it. For example, do you see how at 2:09 or at 2:11, how I had saved an image that I didn't even know was living? Didn't even know it was living until I see. And regard my Trinity. You realize those aren't special effects, right? Those are not special effects. That's a whole lion on the side of my head. You see the lion on the side of my head? That's a lion projecting on the side of my head. Even track? You see the tetragrammaton? So we got a tetragrammaton. We got the Lion of Judah. I told you I've been peeling these seals, and you ain't even paid attention to all the deals. I said I've been peeling these seals, and y'all ain't seeing the deal. Oh, behave, or you shall continue to be a slave. Won't be able to learn anything from which I save. When did I speak like this? Don't you get the gist? You should be reminding yourself not to miss because of this. You see where you're at? Resurrection. It's a fact. Resurrection. That's a fact. Fact. Yeah. You understand? Got y'all. Huh.
For most of us, it's not a daily occurrence, so getting data on a significant scale in a lab setting is difficult. When the human brain is presented with a new scene, it carries out an internal check to see whether elements of the scene have been observed before. If they have, a different part of the brain identifies the scene as familiar. Deja vu occurs when the second part of this process is triggered without the first. Next time they saw a particular word, they would know it was familiar, but not know where they'd last seen it. Interestingly, MRI scans of their brains showed activity not in the hippocampus, which is responsible for memory, but in the frontal cortex, which is responsible for decision-making. The researchers theorized that deja vu was experienced as the brain attempted to resolve the conflict between what the participants had actually seen and what they thought they'd seen.
So come along and stay strong, because I won't steer you wrong. Sit down. And so this might be a bit much for you, because I'm crash coursing you, and I'm really speeding you up on the past 2 years of my life real fast. You see the machine I'm sitting down at? You see the light projecting? It's 10 o'clock. It's 10 o'clock. You see the light projecting from behind my head, sitting down? Do you see that? This is absolutely why I've been slowly becoming unavailable. The quantum mechanics of it all has me too busy that it would make others dizzy. Have you ever tried to figure that out? Like, how am I in that photo? That's how that happened. For someone who's always been just someone that was a good person, trying to do the right thing, never someone that spent a lot of time at church, which is why I thought it couldn't have been me first. But as you see, just like you see her face, just like you see my face, do you see the case? I had to build a case to remind myself of my own face. Isn't that something? How all of a sudden now, I'm damn near about to be a preacher just because you won't learn, so I have to teach you. Still in 3D now. Oh, I'm in 3D now. Oh, I'm in here. I remember this. All of you ought to be clear on the soul that I hold and the gold that I mold. So make sure you pay attention to the background as you see the seraphim shining and glitter just like gold, lighting up in my home, all on their own, reminding you that the Creator is on his throne. Freeze, never forget. Specifically referring to the Ashkenazi right now. I want to be upset with all of you, even though I've already reset, because the amount of separation, when it's in the name, I literally programmed it in the name. Ashkenazi, Ashkenaten, Ashkenaten, Ashkenazi, Ash, Ash, Ken, Ash, Win, Mozart. Just go watch the videos. I'm not breaking everything down like this until I have a proper team. Ashkenazi, okay? Ash, Flint, the fire. Ken, that's me. The family, K-I-N, just like the Tolkien, okay? The last cube on the grid, number 19. Look. You remember? The 19.
Just outside the city of Fort Payne, in the base of Lookout Mountain, Manitou Cave sits. The centuries-old cave is filled with history and syllabary, an alphabet left behind more than 150 years ago.
Why?
150 years ago by the Cherokee Indians who filled this area. The previously silent voice of the Cherokee Indian can be heard.
The alienation is what all truth-tellers can expect when they take their knowledge back to people who have not devoted themselves to thinking. Many of the things we get excited about, like fame, the perfect partner, a high-status job, are infinitely less real than we suppose. They are, for the most part, phantoms projected by our culture onto the walls of our fragile and flawed minds. By our culture onto the walls of our fragile and flawed minds. It's not our fault individually. No one chooses to be in the cave. That's just where we happen to begin. We're all starting from a very difficult place.
That the temporal lobe of the brain's left hemisphere is where incoming information is sorted, but he also found that the temporal lobe receives this information both directly and after a short detour through the right hemisphere of the brain. If, for any reason, the information traveling through the right hemisphere is delayed at all, it could be assigned the wrong timestamp. This gap between the completion times of these two processes isn't noticeable enough that you suddenly pause like a robot without a command. After all, it's well established that less important and infrequently accessed memories are eventually forgotten, or at least heavily suppressed.
The carvings are extremely unique. These petroglyphs on mud on the ceiling of a cave.
You're wondering who would have the audacity.
Are similar to some I've seen, but they are unique in totality. Do they represent people in costumes? Do they represent similar godlike figures in the Southwest, which we've documented? And these are the Kachina. They certainly look like Kachina to me. But what are the Kachina at the source? Were they plasma phenomena in the night sky witnessed looking towards the north? And then handed down through generations as gods. We're going to go through some of the figures right now. And this is the Rattler Man, depicted as wearing a mask, a full outfit, holding two different rattles.
I'll be watching that later, and you can have a watch too. So, to recap, plasma.
This is not a game. It's not Sega. So let me show you the way you need to layer. Pay attention to all the things that I mentioned. Lay to the left, where you see the time, those are ley lines, divine times, biblical down to the nines. Now connected and divine, since most don't read the lines that were written outside of mine. Nor do I blame you, which is why viewership and attendance in churches and mosques are down. Because I haven't been found until now. So please scroll around and make sure you see everything at I am on Instagram or Universal University, both listed here for you to see. Videos have been made for the past 3 years in these mirrors, and I have tears from fears that I had to get clear. That's why you're able to see me now and here. I only have one request of you, and that is the Great Commission. Written down, Google it, the Great Commission. This is the time where you have found the sound, and I have told you all to please tell everybody the truth. That's all you have to do. Tell them to come see the truth. That's my job. And they'll see, just like you. Now.
The sun, number 19, that's me.
If you want certain answers to things, then you are going to lead a certain life. And I know you guys came here because you were tired of a certain life. You wanted more a life of mystery, of experience, of open liminal spaces. Do we have any questions?
أشهد أن علي ولي الله أشهد أن علي
A-I-E-A, the 3-4, showing you the door. To let you know that second coming is now, and I will continue to show you how.
My job is to somehow make them curious enough or persuade them by hook or crook to get more aware of themselves and where they came from and what they are into and what is already there, is to bring it out. This is what compels me to compel them, and I will do it by whatever means necessary.
Our Father, the Father of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob,
The one that took 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread and blessed a multitude of people. I come to you today asking you to give this young man courage.
To help you see how important everything I'm saying to you is at hand. And you see how hard it's going to go back to 3D? Let me just... Do you think I would be up in here doing all this? Who the hell want to say what I'm saying? By the way, I'm a Gemini, a social one, okay? Haven't been the past 2.5 years because of all the things you see here. But I ain't even mad at you. You know why I ain't mad at you? I'm just talking crazy to you that you can shake your damn head at your damn self. Because the reality is that you ought to be aware of this. When you watch the news and you see and hear the same thing over and over again, does it not occur to you that something's off about your reality? So 1 + 1 = 2, ain't it? So if something's off about your reality and you're only seeing the same type of things and you're seeing things in a loop, that's soup. Don't you understand? That's why you gotta go back and watch the videos so you can understand.
I don't wanna die for them to miss me. Yes, I see the things that they wishing on me.
Before I die, again, all of these experiences and all of these images of me will become one. And don't forget what I said and how it will be done.
Hope I got some brothers that outlive me. They gon' tell the story was different with me. God's plan.
Yeah, allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is world famous, one of the greatest. Living legend, did I mention my resume is amazing. The game need a breath of fresh air and I'm breathtaking. Went diamond, guess I'm still a gold mine shining. This black excellence at its finest.